moss wall, we're going to need a few items. You can get most of them at eBay. You're going to be spending maybe $20 or $30 tops depending on the size of your tank. First thing you'll need is some plant net. I picked this up from Aquatic Magic. I've bought a lot of stuff off this guy. Cheap prices, fast shipping. Some of the plants aren't quite what he says they are or don't survive, but you know, for that price I'm not really going to complain or get into that. But this netting here is a rather large piece. It's 40 inches by 60 inches, so you can probably do anything up to 20 or 30 gallons. If you're doing a big 100-gallon tank, you'd obviously need to get a bigger chunk of mesh. You'll notice this is plastic. I don't like putting any metal in my tank. A lot of people will go with stainless steel mesh. The advantage of that is it's going to hold straight. Might be a little easier to work with. You can also get ones with bigger pore sizes than this. You'll notice the mesh is very tightly knit. Some mosses might struggle to grow through that. I found my Java moss had absolutely no issues going through that. So, you know, I wouldn't worry about it. If you want to be cheap, grab this stuff. It'll work for most mosses. The next thing you're going to need is some Java moss. Here's a guy here selling 3 bags for 20 bucks. I personally got, actually the same guy, but I actually got about $2 worth, and I let it grow at my tank for about a year. If you don't have that kind of patience, 20 bucks, that's not bad. And next thing you'll need is some aquarium suction cups. Here's a 10-pack for $3. You might need to grab a couple packs of these if you're doing a large tank, but you'll definitely want to have lots of these. Make sure you have a few more than you might think you need. If you don't have good coverage, your wall won't stick to the back of the tank too well, and it'll start to sag, and it just really doesn't look too great. So the only other thing to mention is determining what size you need. Google standard aquarium sizes. You'll find about.com has an article here. Covers pretty much every size you can need. You're looking at length times width times height. The width is actually the depth, so for 10 gallon you're looking at about 20 inches across, 12 inches high. You want to double the height because you're going to be folding this in half to sandwich in all that moss. So for 10 gallon you're going to do 20 by 24 inches, 5 gallons 16 by 20. I'm sure you can figure it out from there. So just make sure you're ordering enough moss. You might need to order, or sorry, enough mesh. You might need to order, you know, 2 orders of it or 3 orders if you're doing a bigger tank. But for any of the smaller sizes, this guy here is going to be your best source. So here's what I had for moss. It's a 2.5 gallon tank filled with Java moss. Probably the equivalent of a bag, maybe a bag and a half full from that previous auction. You'll be taking your plant netting and some sewing needle and thread, and you'll be stitching the ends of it shut. You'll make sure to leave the top half open. This is where you're going to be stuffing it from. So as you can see, just the sides are stitched. Before you start packing the Java moss,
Whoops.
Here it is, about a quarter stuffed. I've taken out some of the suction cups for now, just to make sure I can get around it and get it evenly distributed. My holes are pre-punched from the first step there. As I pass each of those points, I'll put back in the suction cup. So here it is about halfway. Once again, just try and make sure it's nice and evenly distributed. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the more even you can get it, the better it's going to look once it grows out. And here it is, completely stuffed. I'm going to leave the top edge open, that way as I grow it more in other tanks I can just top it up. Here's my 10 gallon guppy tank after installing my Java moss wall. Enjoy.